Hi guys, can you hear me yet? Hey, great stuff, man. Free speech. Let's see who's coming on. Let's see if let's get back onto the back chat. Sorry, just waiting for the chaps to show up. If anyone's coming. So it's all about milkshakes and free speech. So it should be good. Let's give people some time. Hello, Romy. Romy Tobinson. It's in the chat. Banksy, we need some free speech people here tonight. We need someone who's anti-free speech. Who's anti-free speech? Where's the mod squad, man? Taz Devil says milk. So yeah, Taz Devil, you saw us. You saw me down. Banksy ran into me on Parliament Square. So let's. So right, yeah. So free speech. We were down at Parliament Square. Hang on a second, chaps. Just go do this. Hang on a second, Jupiter. I'll do that right now. Sorry, chaps. I'll just be 5 minutes before we kick off. I'm just gonna do a couple things here. Master Leon's in the house. Come on, Leon, man. You want to come on and argue why? Yeah, to come on and argue why free speech is good for everyone except Ralph, because he hasn't paid me yet. So just give me 5 minutes, guys. I'm just going to sort out a couple of things, some links. Won't be long. I want bank. Where's Banksy hiding? All right, so what's people saying in the chats while we're waiting? Leon's in hiding. 72 version goats, one of my favorite IDs. I don't know who you are, man, but I like your ID. 70 virgin goats, pretty good.
Ralph.
Raindrops in here. Banksy, man.
It's me. It's not Raindrop. It's Raj.
Oh, it's Raj. Hey, Raj. Can't tell you
Yeah, I
apart.
know. I know all Sikhs look the same to you, but
Can't tell you apart, Raj.
yeah, I know. I know you can't. Yeah, what's happening, man? I'm gonna be kind of dropping in and out. You're hosting, so I'll try and abide by your rules. I know you're gonna be like a mini Hitler in this kind of like chat. Manny's told me off. He's saying that, Raj, you overtalk everyone. Don't interrupt. I'm going to say to Manny, shut your mouth. If I'm hosting, I do what I want. But if I'm not hosting, then I'll listen. Yeah. So if you want to try and control me, fair enough. I'll listen to what's going on. What's the topic today then?
It's going to be free speech and milkshakes and Trump because I ran into Banksy and others down at Parliament Square. But the idea you just
All
had
right.
about you and Manny controlling each other just had this kind of strange sexual imagery in my head. So I'm trying to get it out of my head right now.
No,
Yeah, it was just
no,
the kind of,
don't fantasize too much, man.
yeah, I saw that milkshakes, the two of you naked with milkshakes.
And let me
Anyway,
just say something.
kind
If
of
there
back to
ever
the
was
topic.
some, let me say that if there ever was some kind of like weird kind of stuff like that, I'd always be the dominant one. Let me just say that.
Oh, okay, you'd be
Yeah,
the dominant one, yeah.
Manny would be the bitch in the relationship. There's no doubt about that. Okay, what he says, there's no way. Even though nothing like that would ever happen, but if it ever did, did you see? Robbie Thomason's in the chat. Did you
Yeah.
watch the video with Robbie Thomason on BBC?
Which one's that?
Basically, there was an interview with Sargon of Akkad with BBC Derbyshire, I think, or some BBC, and they
Yeah.
were trying to chuck Sargon under the bus, like I normally chuck you under the bus. And guess whose name turned up?
Who's?
Romy
Rob.
Thompson's.
Good man. It's a patriot.
No,
He's a good chap.
basically, they were talking about comments on YouTube, and I was drawing and I was eating something at the same time, and then he spat my freaking food out. They started reading out Romy Thompson's comment. This Romy Thompson said this. Then Sargon repeated, Romy Thompson? I don't know. And then they started talking about Romy Thompson's thing. So Romy is like some Romy Thompson is now obviously he's ejaculating over his success. He's now put the link in
I
the
don't know if he's
thing.
ejaculating, but I haven't heard everything he said, but I can promise you one thing. Anything he's ever said is completely true and under the word of Lord, our Lord Jesus Christ. Yeah, he's a good man, Robbie Thompson. Look
I
at
mean,
that.
I mean,
I was ticking up for
the
him and I had no idea what he's saying.
yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, I don't really agree with like what because Sargon of Akkad made a joke about rape and
Yeah.
about an MP, and the thing is, I don't really agree with it. I don't think it was a funny joke, but I'll defend his right to say it without being called a rapist. Like
But
he
that's,
wasn't.
the problem is, I tell you the problem with that joke with the Sargon one. Yeah, it was good. It proved a point, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not like a rape joke about rape in elevators because that's wrong at so many levels, right?
Yeah.
Do you get that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like,
that was Ralph doing a rape joke on the internet. Okay, just in case.
Yeah. So the thing is, Robbie Thomason made a joke. Like, I mean, even his joke was a bit crass. No offense, Romy, but it was still a joke. He said he has to put a paper bag over her head and think of England or something like that. So it wasn't the kind of like the most let's say sensible thing. But then again, he was kind of like joking. But the thing is that people don't understand about the whole situation with Sargon. Like that lady made light of male suicide. Yeah. And no one talks about that.
Oh, she's a feminist. She's a feminazi. I think Sargon is like any good liberal or libertarian, far too kind.
Have you met Sargon before?
I have, yeah, many times. He's a good man. He's a good man. But he's still a liberal, right?
Yeah, no, he's not on the right in any sense of the word.
Not so. He's slightly right of liberal or libertarian, but strictly speaking, if you look at everything I've known him for years, it's just he's a good old-fashioned English liberal, right? He shares many policies with you, or Steve, the atheist, or any other good liberal centrist, or Jay if he shows up. He's not even right. He's not even an ethno-nationalist or native nationalist, but he has lots of good policies, right? He'd be a sensible chap, right? Except he's going to get crushed by us in the right, or if he lose to the left and the Moz.
Oh, so he's on the
in the middle.
You lot are going to go for him, all right.
Well, that's the thing about free speech. So let's have a little anecdote. We went down. I was there. I think there's some footage out already. Big thanks to Banksy and others. So we were there and we were surrounded by Nazis come off our streets. Nazis come off our streets. The irony, of course, is one, this was Trump coming in for a state visit to head on to the D-Day anniversaries where, if need I remind everyone, that the Nazis were defeated by white supremacy, right? So white supremacy did defeat Hitler. So big up white supremacy. And the people, me, I was a black guy, an Asian woman, another guy, another John, an Israeli guy from Uruguay, all of us united from the right to the populist, not as far right as me, on the side of free speech, respect, authority, hierarchy. Then the milkshakes started flying. Then the Antifa people were there. And the question today, I think a good show, we obviously wait for people to jump on, is what is the core roots of free speech? And why do we have free speech? Where did it come from? How does the left and the right look at free speech differently? How do the liberals look at it differently? I think that should be a good show to break out why free speech came about, why we actually need it, and look at that from the left and right, right? So I'm a free speech absolutist, right? So I want to take that by the ultimate act of self-deprecation with a t-shirt that says "Packies for free speech." So I'm not allowed to print it, right?
Yeah,
I think racism, race relations needs free speech. Sex relations need free speech. I think sexist speech is free speech. Racist speech is free speech. I mean, I think all speech should be free speech, right? That's my position. Clearly, by the some of the things I say.
When you say your free speech absolutes, are you talking up to inciting violence, or even inciting violence is okay with you?
I think if you incited violence, you'd be breaking different laws. I think you should be free to create the speech that incites violence, and then separate sorts of laws should deal with you.
All right.
So I think you should be able to say fire in a crowded theater, and you cause a stampede and maybe 5 people are injured, and then you should be open to the full legal way to the law for the consequences of shouting fire in the theater. But I think you should be allowed to shout fire in the theater, right?
Yeah. Well, are you going to invite any kind of Muslims onto the show?
Well, it's just talking about, it's quite early. It'd be lovely to get anyone who, let's say, is on the opposite side. Are you a free speech absolutist, Raj?
So I thought I was. I always said I was, but then I've kind of questioned myself. My stance is always on the free speech absolute up to the point of inciting violence, and I still think that is a good stance to have. But unfortunately, like, you know, as human beings, we're very kind of hypocritical and, you know, complicated people. And there's been times where I'm like, okay, I wish you didn't say that, but I'll defend your right to say it. Like, I'll give you an example. Tan said a lot of things that I really, really found abhorrent, and yeah,
like what?
Did. I thought some of his speeches towards the end were becoming more vitriolic in their kind of substance, and the original speeches he gave. I'm talking about the last 2 speeches because I witnessed them all.
Yeah, the last 5.
Yeah. So he did a manifesto reading, and I thought, although there was a lot of foul language in there and racially derogatory words, I mean, he called my turban a bird's nest, and I didn't kill him, did I? And I was like, okay, cool, that's what you think, fair enough. And so I think I put my money where my mouth was, because Sikhs got critiqued pretty badly in his manifesto, Hindus got critiqued, everybody did, and I thought it was a good critique.
It was an equal opportunity smash of the whole thing, right? So it was important.
Yeah.
So the way you would interpret Tan's words, right? You don't want to see Tan beheaded, right? I think Tan at the end lost the plot because it got too personal. He got a bit sort of like it went.
All right. So the situation with Tan was that he fell in love, and this is why I say you can't trust a man that is easily swayed by a woman, and you can't trust a man who's intoxicated all the time. You can't handle your drink, and you can't handle yourself around women. Then there's a problem. You lose. I mean, you saw how he changed, and it was because of Lucy Brown that he became so irrational.
I must confess, I'm out on both of those counts, right? Apparently, according to the comment section, I'm drunk all the time and I'm chasing women. So hey.
Now, let me say something. I know when people are drunk here, because I've hanging around with a lot of. No, I'm going to say something that's going to be controversial, but the Sikhs are known to drink too much.
Yeah,
and trust me, I've seen people drunk, and Rafi is not drunk.
I barely drink.
You're just one of those type of people that it's a bit like Steve the Atheist. You know, Steve the Atheist, he shakes a bit sometimes when he gets angry. And people start saying, "Oh, you're drunk," or "You're this." You're not. It's just some people's kind of mannerisms. I just like that. You kind of fidget a lot when you're talking. Did you know that?
Yeah. No, I move all around, like float like a butterfly, man. I'm just here there at high speed. Yeah, I'm dancing on. I can switch and become immediately stoic. So if I'm attending work meetings, I can speak in a slow, controlled rate that everyone else is talking at, and not move my arms or face. That sounds terribly dull, but I can do that. I can do that in command. Yeah, but no, free speech is what I say. So even the guys in the comments have all been kicking off because I said, yeah, everything is okay in rhetorical arguments and debates and speakers' corner. So I said, yeah, I'm going to waterboard your ass, right? So people thought target practice was bad. I was like, no, fuck target practice. Target practice is when you don't hit, right? Waterboarding is. So the point of free speech is introducing back into the memeplex the disruption of what is the programming, right? So we in the reactionary right, we look at free speech, the battle for free speech, differently from the liberal left. So you, Saga, lots of people mount the case, I'll defend your right for free speech, I'll argue it down, blah, blah, blah. We don't come at it that way. We come up with it saying free speech is why they hate free speech is that the globalist cathedral in the north, the forearms of the academia dogma business are running this globalist narrative. And the battle is really upon challenging that global narrative. And what is that global narrative that cannot be challenged from the globalist north across everyone else is egalitarianism. So sexism, racism.
Well, what do you think about egalitarianism?
It's wrong.
What's your kind of stance?
It's wrong.
So
it's an abstract. It's like an abstract concept, right? So it's an abstract concept. So there's two types of collectivism, right? There's physical collectivism and abstract collectivism. So you feel physically, genetically connected to your Punjabi boys first, but then in an abstract collectivism like Sikhism, like Christianity, is an abstract idea. It creates unions of people around an abstract concept. In your case, it's the 10 gurus in Sikhism. But your Punjabi genetic racial Indian heritage, that's in your blood and your DNA. So you have physical collectivism, you have abstract. As a Brit, your abstract collectivism is around British values. What is free speech, the war? Free speech goes straight into the core and says, these are egalitarian ideas, and we wish to challenge them. The heresy for that dogma is called hate. The dogma is egalitarianism, and the heresy against that message is hate. Therefore, race and IQ, race realism, biological collectivism, evolutionary psychology, producing all the stuff you say downstream is a threat to the globalist institutions. So the YouTube ban...
do we have a different definition? Because maybe I got the wrong definition of what egalitarianism means. For me, it means that I want everybody to be treated equally. I don't think we're all equal in the sense that obviously the people that are just superior in terms of intellect, there's just no doubt about it, or physicality.
Correct.
I think everybody should be treated. I don't know if that's the same as egalitarianism. Maybe I'll have to look at the definition.
No, egalitarianism is the political kind of philosophical doctrine above equality, saying that we want to. So we take the four biggest arms of globalism and see how they create this abstract equality. Let's look at capitalism. Capitalism doesn't think that you're Punjabi or I'm not, right? Or Raspect is clearly a Jewish, an original member of the tribe of Israel, right? They don't look at physical truths. They just make you a consumer, a producer, or something. A religion like Christianity or Islam just makes you a believer or non-believer in God, right? Every narrative from the globalist institutions around this idea that where there's difference, that we're actually innately equal. And the left say, oh, because we're not equal, we look at any inequality as injustice and try to equalize it. The right look at it just as saying, oh, politically, it's just a difference in economic resources. You should better yourself. We in the reactionary right don't look at it that way at all. We're saying what you're trying to do is you're trying to beat free speech, because the heresy we're saying is races and IQs are different. Women and men are different. Different cultures are different. Anything that challenges egalitarianism based on the physical truth is the battle. So YouTube, I think you guys are all aware, YouTube just demonetized tons of people, right? Yeah. So Steven Crowder. Look at it. Steven Crowder, of all people, couldn't be more.
He's kind of similar.
Steve the Atheist, Steve the Atheist, Banksy are all where Steven Crowder would be on the political compass.
Yeah, I know. I used to watch Steven Crowder quite a lot.
Yeah, but he's gone.
more the Christian right though, rather. He's more similar
He's Christian, but he's not even very right-wing Christian. He's just a good old-fashioned, clean Christian boy who wants to speak the truth. But what is the truth he's speaking? The truth he's speaking, we look at what YouTube's policy statement was, is you can't say anything that suggests people are different because it challenges egalitarianism. That's why.
So I'm not. Can I just clarify? I just looked at the definition of egalitarian. I'm not an egalitarian.
I know you're not, mate.
No, I believe in half of it, and I think I got a bit confused. It says based on the. So this is the dictionary definition: believing in or based on the principle that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunity. Yeah, in principle that sounds good, but I don't believe all people are equal.
But this is the thing.
But I do believe everyone should be treated equally. So I don't think I believe in equality.
Well, you can't even get to the treated equally, because then you're entering the liberal and the left, who say they shouldn't be treated equally. They should be treated disproportionately, hence social justice. But even deeper than that, people are not equal. Now, when you say they should be treated equally, and what do you mean treated equally by what? Other people, or the law, or equal opportunity? And then you need to break it down. So let me give you an example of why I'm illiberal from the new right and dispense with this idea of equality and free speech. I don't think everyone should be able to vote the same way in the UK. You should be able to take something like a baby test of 50 questions and say 5 grades on the public website on each of the policy areas. If you're not interested and never looked at health in the country, in the UK, or the NHS, you should not have a vote on the NHS. That is illiberal.
Can I ask you a question?
That's illiberal. That's illiberal, right? But to get there, you must break these things open by addressing the fact that people aren't equal, right? You know that, Raj. You don't think people are equal.
Yeah, but when it comes to voting, I think most people can make an informed decision, even if you're not that intelligent on whether you agree with a particular party stance. I know some people just vote and they don't even really understand anything about the party. They just vote according to, what the family voted. But I don't agree with you on that. I think everybody should be above 18 should be allowed to vote.
Yeah, no, but I'm just giving an example of differences. So free speech is just required to tackle these fundamental things, right? So you can't. So you look at even the Muslims are highly sensitive. So the question then becomes, how else can you look at free speech? How do we look at the reactionary right? We use a very famous triangle or trichotomy, a 3-leg model, and we look at it as dividing society traditionally into 3 estates. And you look at this by age, by gender. These are the unspoken truths the left can't handle. And the left are women. And what do women do? How do women create violence or destruction? Women spend our resources and they gossip and shame and they talk because they can't use physical violence. The men are split into 2 packs. There's the elder men who guard the tribe, the fort and everything else, and the younger men who produce resources. Free speech is a threat to the left because free speech wants not to challenge the idea that there's this difference, right? So if you look at the alliances, you can't see the left. They won't criticize Islam for Islam being anti-gay. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed also that Islam will make alliances with the LGBTQ movement, even though they believe all of them should be thrown off buildings?
Yeah, I mean that's falling apart. That's falling apart pretty damn quick. I think even the far lefties are starting to realize that this unholy alliance between the LGBTQ and the Muslims is not going to last very long. In fact, it's cracking up already. With the situation with the schools and stuff like that. So yeah, I think somebody else is on the chat, Ralph. I'm not sure who it is though.
It could be Jupiter, I'm guessing.
I was Jupiter. Is that you, mate? How you doing?
Doing well.
Doing good. We're gonna go out for a drink one day, are we?
No, not unless the old man can come as well.
Come on, man. Tell the old man we'll bust a nut together. Come on, man. Tell him to come out.
All right.
I'm only joking. Sorry, I'm always doing these bad Cockney accents, man. I don't know why. Oh yeah. All right. So I'm not taking control. So it's Ralph's show. But yeah, it's good to finally speak to you. I've seen you in a couple of chats.
Yeah.
I don't really know what your stance is though, because I've not been listening to the chats fully, so I'm not sure exactly what side of the political spectrum you are, to be honest with you.
I would say I'm centralist right. I'm a patriot. I believe in being English. I am English. I think that we should be allowed to keep our English status. I'm sick and tired of people calling us racist just for wanting to be ourselves. And I can't stand the hard left. Right. I don't like racist. So I'm not to the point of I want to go. I'm not far right, but yeah, I'm on the right.
So just so that I can judge how racist you truly are, what does Raspect consider you to be? Because Raspect's view of the world is so distorted. I can kind of tell what he thinks. What is he classified? I'm pretty much Hitler reincarnated. Ralph is like a Hitler plus a million reincarnated. So what are you in his eyes?
Yeah. Well, I don't go as far as Ralph, definitely not. But yeah, no, Raspect thinks I'm a racist, but I'm married to a black man. I've got mixed race kids, so he's talking bollocks.
Oh yeah, but you know what he's gonna say. He's gonna say, "Oh, you're one of those type of people that likes the black man, but you don't really respect him as a." So he's gonna use that anyway. He doesn't.
Yeah, I think they all imagine I've got this big whip and I'll whip him at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that yeah, because the thing is, I agree with you. Like, I think it's a shame that you can't be proud of your own heritage. Like, you shouldn't suppress people like that. You're not racist if you're proud of your English ancestry or history, are you? You don't have to agree with everything. Like, I have problems with the colonial past, but I personally believe that anybody in that circumstances would have done the same thing, or could have done the same thing. Yeah, so it's not kind of like the English or the British went around the world colonizing, and it was a unique one-off thing that only the British done. So many different people have dominated another group if they had the chance. Yeah, so I kind of look at it that way, that although I don't agree with the colonial past, I don't want to beat up mentally the kind of descendants of people that might have run an empire. It's not you that did it.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a lot more nuanced than people are saying anyway, and yeah, what happened in the past was absolutely disgusting. I mean, the only other equivocal thing to it is what happened to the Jewish. I mean, there are other tragedies right across the world.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. There are other circumstances or other atrocities that are just as bad. The Indian Holocaust, and this is nothing to do with the British. Before the British come, for 800 years there was Islamic rule, and in that time, over 150 million Indians were put to the sword or killed. Yeah.
Oh wow!
This is something that when you speak to say Muslims from the Asian Indian subcontinent, they seem to forget. So they'll criticize the British, but ask them next time they say they criticize the British colonial past, what do you think of the Islamic conquest of India? They'll say it's great, but for Sikhs and Hindus, it was a hell. Yeah, it was hell. It was millions of people being murdered. So this is the hypocrisy I have with a lot of Muslims from the Indian subcontinent, because they'll put down the Brits in terms of the colonial past. As soon as you ask about the Islamic rule, it was great, it was amazing, and they won't accept the 150 million people.
Well, I don't want no Islamic rule here.
And you're Egyptian, so I finally get to say hi to you. How are you, love?
I'm okay. How are you, Ralph?
I've only met you in the Raspix live streams. I think you're a star sticking up for England. You're a proper patriot, love. I mean, you hold your own against hordes of them, don't you?
I try. They did manage to make me sort of like have a bit of a mini breakdown where I had a couple of tears as I was raging at one time. But
you know what?
I'm a woman. I don't care.
Yeah, but big up on you. I know the fight's really hard, because people don't realize how many ordinary, for example, just white English people are so scared now to open their mouths, right? Which is so wrong, right? Because I can speak multiple languages, and Raj, you'll appreciate this. It's not like the Muslim Hindi boys are not cursing out whitey in racist language. You just don't understand it.
Yeah. I mean, some of the
words, what do you mean don't say the nigger word or packy word? How dare you? They call you nigger and packy all day long in languages you don't understand in your homeland.
And the thing is, Ralph,
how dare they, right? I mean,
and Ralph, I've heard a lot of people say, Raj, you're so rude as a Sikh. And what they don't realize is that the Sikh people, when we talk in Punjabi, like some of the most vulgar stuff comes out, but because you can't understand it, and I'm speaking in English a lot, they don't realize that a lot of Punjabi, when we're speaking in Punjabi, there's a lot, the vulgarity I hear. An example is Turd Lochan, who goes speak at school. He doesn't swear in English, but he says the most foul stuff in Punjabi to me.
And you have to go to, again, why is free speech scary? Because you have to go to the basic truth that people have racial in-group preferences, and there's nothing wrong with this. Loving my own above loving you doesn't mean I hate you. I can love my own first, right? So I spoke to lots of the old school hardcore right wing when I was down Trafalgar Square and stuff. They're the old boys, their 50s and stuff, from the old NF days and everything. And I get along fine with the Patriot because I can crack the best packy jokes on the planet with them, right? Do you understand? That's the difference, right? Yeah, because letting that out and accepting that difference, because Indians are cracking jokes about whites and blacks non-stop, right? You just don't understand it, right? So you can separate true hatred, true white supremacy, because you have that in all fucking colors. Raspek's panel has black supremacists who are way right of Hitler. I listen to them, I'm like, wow, you'd be a good SS recruiter, right? But if white people say, hang on, I don't want to live with too many black people in one place, I don't mind black people, racist. Oh, I don't want 100,000 Muslims running around me just because I don't like the look of them. You say that, oh my God, that's racism. No, it's not, because that's what they think of you. And only free speech will allow you to say that, right? Hence, the packies for free speech,
Well, the thing is,
don't put that on a T-shirt, please.
I'm not allowed. The missus is there's some. Master Banksy's in the house. See, and these, you know what, love? These fucking Iranians come here, yeah. They fucking take over the live streams. Our fucking live streams. Our grandfathers died for the beaches of Normandy. Fucking Iranians. Fucking.
Do you know that's the one thing that really, really annoys me as well? They've took away our British humour. They've taken it away and they've they've politicised it. And that is what used to make us all be able to get on.
Absolutely, love. Absolutely. Race relations need racist speech. They need all racist speech just to be able to get people to get along. A
prime example is Mind Your Language. If you watch that program now, like that program could never be made. But a lot of the stuff they said in there was quite true. I mean, they used to have the Sikh versus Muslim situation, like in the 70s. Like they knew there was a problem between Sikhs and like the Muslims in kind of like their culture were very similar, but we have issues. And you'd have the Sikh guy always fighting with the Muslim guy, and there was a lot of stereotypes in there. Like if you tried doing that today, you'd be called a freaking Nazi. But at that time,
look, let me tell you a personal story. So my brother-in-law is very conservative, Indian man from the Rajput land. He's a Marwari, and he'd never left the West. He comes from a very wealthy family, and he came to England to do his degree. He married my sister. He lands here the first 2 days. He comes from a very, very opulent, far-right Indian family. He looks at the Muslim people. He looks at the black people. And he turns to them and says, "Are you guys mad? You must be absolutely mad." That's the opening line of Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech, right? Yeah, so for a brown guy who's never arrived in white lands to land here going to say, what the hell are you doing? Are you giving away your own land? Tells you that racism or in-group, out-group preference is not a white thing. Every country feels it, right? So you can't, it's only the white English, especially the white English working class, who've been demonized and are not allowed free speech. And as Jupiter says, you're getting your balls cut off, right? Which is just not right, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I don't see any issue with white people want to live with white people and Asian people want to live, because it's just normal human behavior. You want to be close to people that are genetically similar to you. It's just natural. The problem is when you start to separate yourself mentally as well. Like you're literally like got a country within a country. That's when it becomes problematic. But if white people want to live amongst white people, I've never really had an issue. If Asians want to live with Asian, I don't think there's an issue. But when it becomes ghettoized to the point that the two communities just don't communicate, because
for me, it's who decides, right? First of all, you have to have the truth. Let's take whitey out of it. If you go around Southeast Asia or South America, you go to parts of Africa, everyone has the same patterns. Who wants to live within whitey land? The Belgians are close to the French, but they hate each other, just like the English would do to the Irish. Everyone has an in-group, out-group preference. The only thing is white people, specifically British people more than any, and Germans and Swedes, are not allowed to say so, because the left say it's racism, whereas everyone else, 9 out of 10 people think it. And when you rush multiculturalism, when you rush immigration at this level into one area and one land, then what happens? You see white flight, white plight, right? They just fled the areas, right? Every time you integrate an area, they flee. And you get these ghettos. You've got to be able to either integrate or say, these people, this is their land, right? It's not racism to say so, right?
Yeah.
Racism when you really hate. Like if I saw a Chinese person, I just felt violently rageful and wanted to fucking behead him because he's Chinese. That's racism, but I've got a different problem.
Yeah, but that's how they feel about us.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
When you say they, Odin, so I've not really spoken to you, Jupiter. So when you say they, who are you referring to? Because I don't know your political stance. Like, who are they?
Anybody that's of colour who's anti-white. That's how they feel about us. They literally hate us.
Just look at the comment section. Look at the comment section for me on YouTube, right? They try everything. Why? I'm not white. They can't handle the fact that I'm a proxy for white rights. But I care about black people or brown people, everyone else. But the sheer hatred towards me is the hatred for white people using me as a punching bag.
Yeah, they do that with my husband too.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I've noticed.
The thing is that I think a lot of these people have an inferiority complex, which is why they hate white people. They actually, when I speak to them, I actually think they think you're superior to them.
Yes.
When I speak, they seem to talk about white people like you're some kind of freaking gods, like controlling everything, controlling every aspect of their life, and they can't move forward because of the white man. I don't feel like I think these people have an inferiority complex, and that's why they kind of intimidated by white people.
Well, the thing is that does come historically from a lineage of some form of oppression, one way or the other. I mean, the Arabs. If you talk to Arabs like Saudis, they see themselves better than just about everyone, especially those in the Arabian Peninsula and in North Africa. Like they just look their noses down, and yet the Somalis and the Sudanese, they kiss the ass of the Arabs because they think that they come from the holy Muhammad. so somehow the Arabs are better than them, and that's why I keep saying that these Arabized nations, North African nations and Pakistanis even to some extent, are suffering from Stockholm syndrome, because they are literally, they feel that they have to like praise the people who at one point actually oppressed them, that enslaved them, that colonized them, but they don't through this religion they don't see it as a bad thing. They've been convinced that this was a good thing for them, whilst when it comes to the white European colonization, now they've come to sort of become there's this narrative that it was the most evil and heinous thing ever known to mankind ever, and let's forget everything else that happened before that. Let's just start from the point where the white man started colonizing, and the funny thing is, white people in retrospect, since their period of colonization and since they've become sort of a lot more open, they are 1,000 times more welcoming, they're 1,000 times more open, their societies and their communities, than the other colonizers. You go to the Japanese, and they colonized China. They're not welcoming Chinese in by the hordes. Go to the Arab nations, go to Saudi Arabia, go to Emirate nations. They're not welcoming the Sudanese and
the Indian subcontinent,
or even to that extent. They're not welcoming other people. They actually all have ethno-states.
So
Saudi Arabia is an ethno-state.
They're all native states, all native nationalists, if not ethno-states, and native.
Well, native nationalist states. Exactly.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, here's an interesting thing. This is a history of all texts as analyzed by Google across time. So if I plugged in the word race, if you look from left to right, race is something that is just average through society. If you look at the 1940s and the end of World War I and II and the Great Liberal Experiment, race as a concept gone down. What if I typed in racism, on the other hand? What would happen there? Look at that. What does that show you? Racism was invented as a concept by Trotsky in the 30s. It was not even in the history of text before that. And then it was through World War II until the liberals' experiment started in 1960. Suddenly racism was pulled right to the top of our cultural consciousness. Then 80s went through, we had a boom, and then suddenly the postmodern left took over academia and institution. Racism is shot up as a concept. Yeah. Racism is a left-wing concept. That's its historical triumph. You think, oh my God, what about something even more traumatic to us in the Free West? And I typed in Islamophobia.
Hold on. Before you move on, this racism thing, you're saying it's a concept that comes.
Correct. from the left.
Getting into the mindset from the left.
No,
But
it's
that doesn't
clear
mean
history.
that doesn't mean that racism wasn't prevalent throughout societies before then.
No,
it just became more kind of like indoctrinated. More propagated into people's minds.
That's not what I'm
saying.
saying.
More aware of it.
No, that's not what
I'm
saying.
All right, but you're saying that what are you trying to gather? Are you trying to say that?
Let me hear me out once more.
You elaborate on it a bit more.
Yeah, no worries. So if you look at concepts, words as concepts, right? They're mental concepts, right? If I went back to race before I jumped, just normal natural race, as Banksy says, Saudis with these, Japanese with Chinese, English with Indians, Italians with Jews. Race has always been a constant concept in our history. We all know we have racial in-group, out-group preferences. It's never been considered good or bad. It's just an ingrown concept of the difference of people's race. But racism, as the word racism, is a left-wing political idea that, if you look, was invented by the 30s by Trotsky. The liberal experiment pushed it up to give us civil rights movement. We had true equality. Then the hard left took it over in the 80s, 90s, and they made racism. Racism says this normal, different concepts of race we all naturally feel is bad. It's immoral. It's wrong because it goes against egalitarianism, despite the fact that all races of all colors don't feel that way at all. They don't think racism is bad. It's a programming. And if I just typed in the word now to understand how society is moving, and I typed in Islamophobia, one of our favorite words, whoops, did I not type it right? Islamophobia. Wow, did they take it all off? Let's just type in Islam. Look what happened. Let's have a second. Let's look what happened with Islam in the West. Until the collapse of colonization in the history of the Islamic West, not much happened until the 60s, when all the post-colonial Egyptian powers withdrew and the Egyptian nations and the Islamic nations became free nations. Suddenly, from the 80s and 90s, the first interaction with us in the West, the first spike of bombs, of beheadings, of the satanic bushes, then quiet again, and then boom, 2011. Now, if I typed in Islamophobia, I wonder why it won't let me Islamophobic. Is Google up to no good? Yeah, it's taken it off. That was very recent. I knew that would come in. They've taken off the word Islamophobia because there's no formal definition anymore. They can't even agree at Parliament, right? So the idea that you have the suppression of race difference or racism is a concept that goes against the grain, and free speech challenges it. That's my only point I was trying to make. Right? You can see that in the history of words. There we go. A little bit of geek stuff. Someone said I typed Islamophobia wrong. Did
I? Do you think racism is just a normal kind of product of being a human being? Do you think it's just natural?
It is. It is.
Or do you think? Just a little bit.
Oh, here we go. I spelled Islamophobia wrong. The guy in the right was wrong. I spelled Islamophobia wrong. I've slept very little last night. That's Islamophobia. So you see what happens with Islamophobia. So when the guy's a speaker, scholars saying, you're Islamophobic, I could use the atheist and the heroes from like Christopher Hitchens and respond as a secular person. I can respond as a Christian. I can respond as a free speech liberal going, are you mad, bruv? If I was speaking from the hood. Are you mad, bruv? You just made that idea up, just like racism only showed up in the 30s. The rest of society doesn't think that way. So that is Islam of the West in a single chart to show you what happened right there.
Ralph, can I send the link? Do you want me to send the link to Asif? You know Asif?
Yeah, Asif. Yeah.
And what about Colin, our gay resident?
Colin, definitely.
It's a pussycat's den, man. As long as there's no Antifa Dan Totos and any of these great Indian types, I think we're all right.
One thing I wanted to say that since we're in a little bit of a lull, I had nothing to do with Jordan M deleting his own YouTube channel. It doesn't look like YouTube actually took it down. It looks like he took his own channel down himself. I don't know why, but it had nothing to do with me. I never made a single complaint about his channel to anyone ever. In fact, I'm disappointed because it is now taking away a degree of fun and frolics from my end.
Who are you going to troll? Who are you going to troll, man?
Exactly. It's messed up my plan for the next 2 months.
My cunning plan.
I had 2 months of fun planned with Jordan.
So if you look at the free speech then, Raj and Jupiter, look at, we can talk about it from race and stuff. You look at the park, of course I'm going to say whatever I want at Speaker's Corner, right? It's not hate speech for me. It's free speech. Right?
Yeah.
And I could go up to a black person and say nigger. That would be my free speech, absolutely. But I would never have that disrespect or intent in my heart, would I? Why would I do that, right? I have a lot of black friends, right? But to be able to not say the word is not acceptable to me, just like the word packy. Yeah, I can say it in a context with white friends or brown friends. Yeah.
Sorry, could you please take your screen, your sharing screen, because some people could take the link from that potentially. I don't know if the Hangout was, I could see it.
Yeah, I know. Let me just stop that shit. Because they are. Am I still sharing? No, not. Right. Yeah, so that's free speech. And Jupiter, I can see you getting it. Can you still see my screen? Probably not now, right?
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's back on your cam.
Yeah,
you know how it
okay.
is, these people. You have to be very, very cautious. I actually have two screens, one purely for the sharing of the screen, and one for just in case I get the Hangout mix. But yeah, just it's paranoid. But going back to what you were saying, the thing is though, Ralph, you know, your whole Sich Heiling and all that business. I mean, you must admit you have fun with that. Yeah, that's an element of trolling for you.
No, it's more importantly that I'm seen to be seen trolling as part of it. But there's also a serious part here. There's a disrupting the memeplex for real. And, you know, if I came across as a Sea Kyler dressed up in Nazi uniform, let's be clear, Mr. IC3 is all Sea Kyler costumed up, right?
Well, I mean, he's colonial, isn't he?
Well, but come on. I mean, you couldn't go more fucking Sea Kyler than that, right? The point is, no one sees him as advocating for Nazism. And I'm clearly not advocating for Nazism, right? I mean, I don't think I'd qualify to belong to the Nazi party if it was around today.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I'll probably honest with you, most white people. Let me say something. Most white people would not qualify for the Nazi party.
Oh yeah,
that's
if
true.
If they were starting to do DNA tests, like you had DNA tests now, if they started to determine who was white.
So JK in the comments said, then why would you want to waterboard people? Because sometimes I want to shoot people in the face just for what they wore. I have the right to say that. What I don't have to do is the right to shoot him in the face because he doesn't know how to dress, right? Yeah, but I want to do worse things than shooting in the face. If I meet jihadis talking shit in the park, I'm going to remind them of what our boys do in Guantanamo Bay to them. They can't hack it. They should jihadi down, man. Yeah. On a good Muslim who speaks intelligently to me, I'm never going to talk about Guantanamo Bay, am I? I'm going to speak to him with respect about what he understands, right? But when people give you jihadi shit, they only understand Abu Ghraib, man.
They only understand Abu Ghraib. It's the Abu Ghraib language.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you control me, you control, you know, we'll control that. But the more important serious subject is who's right. So what happened to Milkshakes? You could see the free speech. They had to escort us down, back up past the cenotaph. And the left were just granting, you know, Nazis off because they don't want the message to be heard. But it's too late now. YouTube on the third wave of you know, I predicted 5 waves of such strategies because of my mates when I'm working these things. And yeah, then wave 3 now, the purge. They're cutting off all the centrist voice. Who are they cutting out? Not just white. They're not just cutting out Richard Spencer, right? They're not just stopping the alt-right millennial votes. They're not just stopping people speaking for white rights, right? They're now cutting off any central libertarian voice because they're scared of Trump being reelected and they're scared of Jeremy Corbyn losing. And they're going to lose because we're not going to stop, right? We're going to sing Justice for the Three, right? And we're just going to keep singing it again and again, right? Because we have to disrupt your message, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the net is closing. I mean, with this YouTube's latest purge, I'm just thinking about doing cat videos from now on.
Oh, no, I'm a geek. I've been a geek all my life, professionally and stuff. But that's always an arms race. You will never win the technology battle, right? We're going to distributed networks. Already we're going to crypto. Already we're moving to Telegram, right? You're not going to stop us. You're just going to make our life really hard. But we in the right, especially the far right, which I represent, we're going to remember all this shit for when it's our turn, because our turn is coming. We're going to purge the internet of every feminist video, every race relations study, everything you liked that you did to us. Trust me, we've got some
coming back.
The great thing is you guys went round 1, but the internet can't be deleted. So we're going to go round 2, and we're going to have the entire record of the internet to go after you going, right, who did you suppress? So, you know,
I mean,
what
the
goes round
thing is,
comes round, mate.
the weird thing is, I don't want. I mean, a lot of people like for example, Jordan M's video being a YouTube channel going down tonight. That's like a disappointing thing to me because
Yeah.
I need those things. I'm his Joker to I'm the Joker to his Batman. I need.
Yeah.
How can you? You know, it's an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force. I can't
Yeah.
do something without bouncing off of these.
Same here,
these-
Banksy. I
these
need
people.
atheists like you who are godless swine who have not found Christ. I need to smash your
Exactly.
atheistic worldview. Without you, there's no point, right? I need you to exist. Right?
That's it. That's it. So,
And
but
you need
what I
to
mean
mock
is,
me.
the ever since actually a lot of the sort of bedroom feminists started to disappear because they were being hammered so hard by reason and logic, the YouTubers who profited and grew very fast from that have stagnated. Quite a lot of them.
The
Quite a lot of
skeptic
them have-
community now, the skeptics, they don't know
yeah,
what to talk about.
yeah. It's become a bit bland actually. On
But
the,
you know
on
why
the-
that is? Because that's the collapse of the middle happening at every point. There's no more middle left. You're picking left and right now.
Yes.
Are you on the side of the multicultural Islamist, anti-globalist, hate nationalists, or on the side of the people? And they don't have to just be white, but they're patriotic, standard, sensible first world to say, we don't want this shit and we're going to fight you for it.
Yeah, you
And
see-
we're going to fucking fight you in the streets for it if we have to. Right?
Yeah, Ralph. You see, this is the thing that they're not understanding. I mean, I'm in a multicultural relationship. My husband's from Africa originally, but what they're not understanding is that it's not to do with color or anything like that. It's to do with this culture. And actually, I'm one of the people that says multiculturalism didn't really fail, because what Britain is very good at doing, when the people come in, it takes the best of their culture, puts it into our culture and enriches it and progresses it on. But we've got this one culture that's come in that wants to dominate, and that is the problem.
Yeah, Islam is exactly, even racially, if you look at the Indians and the Chinese community, I've married a white woman and I come from a mixed race background. Is if you look at the integration cultures versus the normal ones, Islam is a threat as a combination of race and culture. It's not just race, right? And other brownies get caught up in the mess. And if you look at, say, a good argument against, I remember seeing an old video, I'm catching up with all of Soko and Bob's work. I watched Bob had a debate with Vinnie Jones a few years ago in the park, arguing about English people have also lost their Christian heritage. I'm a Christian first, above everything else. And we need to restore and heal that own internal value of the nation. And it's very hard when you're under assault by cultures, multicultural, mass immigration, all these other people, to restore your own Englishness, right? You can't be English anymore, right? It's almost a culture. It's culturally found. It's mocked. White bandana. Yeah, Eden Fish Chip Shop. They mock everything like you're some sort of 1950s character. You're not allowed to be English. If you say you want to be English, right, you're immediately accused of being racist.
Well, the thing
even
is
if you're
that,
not,
yeah. I mean, the thing is that when I've spoken to certain individuals about, like when you talk about British culture, they'll always kind of like reduce it down to, football and drinking and all that. But I say to them, look, culture is not just about that. It's about, look at the buildings, look at the society, look at the music, look at this. That's what culture is. Like, it's not just one dimensional, that, it's just I'll go in pub, because that's always the derogatory way of putting down the British culture. Like, what is British culture? And just look around you first. That is the culture of the UK. Like,
Actually, British culture is different to English culture. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Some of our culture has been taken on as British, but English culture is actually different. People say that there is no English culture. There is. Yeah, we like a good knees up. Yeah, we like to drink, etc., etc. We like to dress how we want to dress. Women can be quite leery and outspoken and opinionated, especially the working class, and things like that. But it's not just that. We've lost things like people don't queue at bus stops no more. That's part of our culture. People don't say please and thank you. People don't say good morning. All these little etiquettes that we had as English people, no matter how common or low we were or how high we were, they're going. You get on a bus these days, you can see a pregnant woman standing on a bus, and it'll be full of immigrants, and they won't get up for the pregnant woman. What's that all about?
Let me defend the immigrants for a minute. Obviously, I'm not an SJW freaking freak, But I will say that I think this is more indicative of society as a whole becoming aloof with one another. I don't think it's to do with immigration. I think what's happening is that you have these big cities, and in the past, people used to know their neighbor. I mean, I don't know my neighbors. I don't say hello. I don't want to know them. So if you're listening, don't say hello to me. Basically, so everybody's like in their own little bubble. And so what's happening is that in the past, when somebody would see somebody, they would empathize with them more. But in London, people are just like, they don't really give a shit. Like, they're walking about, they want to get from A to B and all that kind of stuff. So let's defend the little immigrants for a minute, the little brown people. I don't think we're any less polite. I just think we're kind of, I just think that everybody's kind of like separated.
Banksy's just cracking up.
No, but Raj, I would disagree with you. I think that a lot of it has been lost because they come here and they don't understand what the procedures are or the culture is or what is generally accepted, and therefore because they don't know it, it might not be done consciously on purpose. They don't do it, and then when they're told by a white person, can you get up and let the pregnant lady sit down, please? They think you're doing it because they're colour.
And you know something, Jim?
Ralph, you're sharing the screen.
Yeah,
again.
I know I am. Deliberately. When people ask me that, I get really angry because usually the low IQ immigrants who either hate, for example, let's take Banksy off in a minute, who either hate the fact that they don't understand English history and culture, or they don't realize how great this particular island is. And the way to see that is if you look at the following curve that just shows you, this is the significant distribution of all the Muslim people who mattered ever in the world across time, from the 1,000 years prior to Christianity. Everything happened in the Enlightenment at 1600, all the way to 2000. Europe dominated that until the late of this millennium, where the rest of the world is now catching up. And of that period in 1600 to 80, you would argue 90% of the most significant thinkers and people in the history came from the British Isles. So they don't understand what they mean when they say England doesn't matter. They just don't understand a fucking thing about English history, right? And it just does my head in, personally, as a patriot. Sorry about that.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, every society, if you go back thousands of years ago, you would have certain places like Egypt that were dominating, and over the last couple of hundred years, it has been the West, and you have Britain, especially, that has, contributed way more than its size. And if you look at it where it is, you wouldn't expect it to kind of like contribute so much to kind of like the world history and stuff. So I will never take that away. I think British people should be proud of their past, but accept that also there was bad. Like, this is one of the problems. I know some people say you're always bringing it back to Islam, but one of the issues I have with Muslims, especially in the Indian subcontinent, is that they don't, at least with the West, they will say, okay, we done this, that was good, but we did this and that was bad. We were bad for doing that. With people from the Indian subcontinent from a Muslim background, they will only say we did good, but we didn't do no bad. But there was a lot of bad that happened in the Indian subcontinent. It had nothing to do with white people. There was no white people there when my people were being butchered in the millions.
Yeah, but you see, with Islam, but see, this is why free speech matters. This is what my mission is at Speaker's Corner. Part of my mission is that you challenge these narratives at their core, for example, right? We know Islam is imperial. Of course we do. That's what it's very good at. Its history is a history of imperialism, right? Whitey's blame, but the Muslims don't want to. And the only language imperialists can deal with is imperialist language, right? They should be treated as dhimmis in England. They like the idea of second-class citizens of dhimmis. I think they should be treated as second-class citizens. It is in their ideology. How dare they piggy bank liberal white ideology for equality they don't offer anyone else? As Banksy said, is there egalitarianism in the Middle East? Is there equality in the Middle East? Are there human rights? Are you allowed to build churches? Nothing. So in your land, you have your rules, but when you come here, you want your rules to apply to you. Now, I want your rules to apply to you while you're here.
Well, this is the thing. This is one thing that a lot of people actually. This is something a lot of people have been saying, is that Muslims who advocate for Sharia should have Sharia applied to them if they ever commit any crimes or do anything. If they are caught doing an adultery, if they are caught stealing, if they're caught doing anything, Muslims would have Sharia Sharia rules apply to them, and those punishments apply to them. And believe me, most Muslims who advocate for Sharia would not want to have the Sharia law, the Sharia punishments apply to them in a million years. And this is the problem. This is the hypocrisy of them, is that they call for Sharia, but they wouldn't actually want to live under it.
No, of course not.
This is what
you see, even if you look at the one debate I had, if you call it a debate with what's the big one called, Mohammed Begum, and if you look at him in Speaker's Corner, I thought, where would I troll him? I'll troll him a couple of ways. I trolled him on the black IQ. I thought I'd wait for a while, and then I'm going to troll him because he won't see it coming. I'll troll him on him being in our lands. So I said to him, if you find the video back and find it, I said to him, Mohammed, it's like, well, you use the left while you're visiting our lands. And he immediately freaked out and said, what do you mean our lands? Paki, coconut, imperialist, slave, whatever he went for. I said, no, these are Christian lands. And you can see straight away that Islam first is an imperialist strategy. He only thinks of England as somewhere he is. He's not connected and will never be spiritually, culturally, emotionally connected to England. And the solution is that he doesn't belong here, or his children need to be deprogrammed. Right?
No, but hold on. So, but if look, my stance is different from yours in the sense that,
of course,
if you're a devout Muslim, and you still see yourself as British and you want the best for the UK, because end of the day, we all have to live on this island and we have to live together.
No, we don't.
And if you believe that you want the best for the UK, I'm cool with you. But if you're somebody that goes, nah, I hate the UK, then you might need to go. In that sense,
like, but it's funny, when I was joking with a Muslim guy in the last video, that's obviously triggered off the comment section. When I said waterboarding, it wasn't just me standing with two white lads. The black lad agreed with me. Banksy, you were there right behind. The other guy agreed with me. The Chinese guy agreed with me, because they all agreed with picking Britain first. And it was a Muslim trying to use racism and trying to use anti-Islam and all these kind of tricks to highlight the single fact that, unlike Banksy, the black guy, me, the two white working class, they've beaten up in the comment section, we all stood on the same side against that. They don't have a choice. They only stand on their side. Anything else is tequila.
The thing is, Ralph, they were actually, Jordan, at least on his show, he was calling me out and like, oh, he was going at it. I'm like, I looked at the whole video. I said like 4 things to that poor guy. During that whole thing, they were all piling on him, and Banksy was right in the middle of it. I'm like, I was in the background. I said about 3 or 4 things like, do you think that Hinduism is equal to Islam?
Your question,
and he wouldn't answer that.
Yeah, and you're an atheist, so you can't be called anything to do.
Well, exactly. Right. No. When
the black guy agreed completely, so it wasn't race, right? The point is, Islam dominates all his mind space. Islam is not going to negotiate with us. Islam doesn't want to compromise with us, so we can't.
It will never offer you quarter. It will never offer you the same things as the West is offering Muslims in this country. This is the problem. The things that Muslims advocate for. You see, the problem is that I don't want to misinterpret or misconstrue Muslims with Islam, because I want to actually start a series called "Let's Make Muslims Kafir Again," and I want to because I know Muslims can change their mind. Islam doesn't change.
I'm a Christianity. You would like you. I would stand with you. You want to secularize them, and I want to bring their Christian souls from Christ and save them from Islam. So, an Islam apostate,
whatever means,
whatever means,
as long as they're not Muslim.
Yeah, as long as Islam is defeated, right? That's all.
Yeah, but the thing is, Ralph, the only thing I truly believe is a threat from Islam, I really think is a threat, is against free speech. That is something that is really real. And it's real in the sense that you can actually feel it, you can see it.
But it's not a threat.
And this is the one thing that I want Muslims to understand is like, just don't interfere with free speech. And if we can talk openly, then that's not going to be an issue for me. If you start restricting free speech, that's when I'm going to have a massive problem with you.
But that's what they're doing all the time. That's what they're doing all the time. But they're not alone, because again, in our analysis, the globalist North and the cathedral and the left are with them in bed together. It's a coalition of the willing and the weak, right? They all want it, from the Guardian, from YouTube,
but
globalists.
But they're gonna
Raindrop. Big up Raindrop.
Big up Raindrop.
Big up Banksy. Big up. you know, they're
let me
butting
say
heads
something.
now because I don't know if
Just a
you follow.
private thing. Oh, just a private. Thanks for the advice. Let's not talk about it, but thanks for the good advice.
No problem.
But
I'm
Raindrop gave
happy
me some
for that.
quite harsh advice, and I didn't like it at the time. I felt like slapping you about, but he was right. So
No, I wasn't harsh.
No. But to me, it was like, all right. Well, I'm not going to say why, but let me just say sometimes you need a little bit of a talk to kind of and let your ego down. So it was a good advice anyway.
So, Devendra, what's your?
Anytime,
Are you a free speech absolutist or just a regular free speech person?
No, I believe, I'm a free speech absolutist, and what I wanted to say was that you see that the liberals and the Muslims are now going to butt heads because I don't know if you're following in England, they have LGBT, you know, they're not even really teaching LGBT lessons, you know, to kids. But you see massive protests where there's a lot of Muslims who are protesting and spreading to multiple schools in which they're trying to limit what kind of speech is allowed in school. And this is the thing, they're not teaching kids. So there's a misconception. I thought they were teaching kids, you know, about, you know, LGBT. No, they're not. All the teachers do is that if that topic comes up, then they say, look, some children have two mommies, some children have two daddies, which is fine. I mean, they're not giving the intricacies of, you know, of what's happening in the bed. They're just saying that, okay, if the kid asks, so it's not part of the lesson plan or anything. It's just that, you know, if the kid asks or, you know, someone brings it up, then they'll just say, okay.
I
but even this, just a little thing
on this particular topic, I actually think 4 years old is too young to even really be talking about this. But I'll say something: the Muslim community need a PR man like myself. I'll offer my services to you because even though you're right in these circumstances, the way you handle it is like a bull in a china shop. And you're making even a situation where you're actually on the moral high ground into a disaster. Like, you don't go outside schools with little children with placards, oh, we don't want, and all this homophobic stuff. And this is the problem, I think, with the Muslim community in particular. They're not very good at introspection in terms of looking at how they look to other people, and they'll just do whatever they want. And then, you know, even if it looks, they don't understand how bad it looks. So I'm offering my services.
No, they
to the Muslim
they don't care.
community.
No, they don't care.
Yeah, no, they don't care.
They don't care at all. They're just on their mission to just imperialize, right? They're not.
That's
they're
the
using.
thing. They know how they look.
Yeah,
so,
they know.
So the guy who's leading these protests is a Kashmiri Pakistani guy, and he's the UK. He's not some immigrant, you know, uncle that is just going there protesting. He has his sister involved. His whole family's involved in this, and they're really like, and they have it's so coordinated. So I don't know if you watch the news on LBC and BBC. So basically, they have these templates, you know, written out templates that they each other, you know, on WhatsApp groups, and they print it out and they start canvassing and protesting. And I was like, holy hell, this is just, it's a minor thing, but for such a minor thing, they want to limit, you know, that.
Yeah, but the thing is,
spreading to different schools now. So you're gonna see this.
Yeah, but the thing is, I actually agree with their stance that it's too young. That's just my thing. I think it should be a little bit older. What I'm trying to say is that they don't have, the problem with what I've seen, like when I watch this scenario in particular, was that they seem to like not understand how to play the game in terms of PR. So they don't really give a shit. Like, this looks bad when you got kids outside for a month, taking them out of school and all that kind of stuff. They're on the moral high ground, but because of the way they're handling it, it's actually making them look bad, even though they have got a good point in what they're saying.
Yeah, sadly,
no, so the thing see, the thing is, I'm not for teaching little kids, you know, all the details, but that's not what the schools are doing. The schools are simply going to say that if you're in kindergarten or you're in first, second standard, and, you know, let's say you have two moms, a child with two moms, you know, comes for whatever. And if the topic comes up, then the child will say that, you know, sometimes the parents can be two moms and two dads. That's it. They're not teaching, you know, all the dirty details. They're not going to, you know, this is what a banana is and this is what you put on top of a banana.
Yeah,
they're just saying that there are different types of families. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see that, you know, that's something that should be
I understand
limited.
I understand that stance, and yeah, that if that's exactly what it is, then it's all very good and well. But they're letting trans people go into nurseries and read stories. What's that all about then? Because I don't agree with
no,
that.
I don't support that. Yeah, no, I don't support that. Like, you know, when they're trying to teach kids at such a young age, I don't support I don't support that. But this situation that's happening is not that. So when I saw this, I actually thought that, oh, they're just protesting lessons. There might be lesson plans. But no, when I read the news and I read the articles, they're not teaching lesson plans. All they just want you to say was that if a kid comes up
but
and
the thing
asks
is,
the
look,
teacher,
can I just say that at 4 years old, I don't remember anything like, you know, like I was prejudicing anyone. Like, unless someone's teaching you that at home, and then you need to do a counteractive kind of like program to counteract that. Okay, but at 4 years old, like I wouldn't even know, like I wouldn't even think about it. If I saw a mum and a mum, I wouldn't really think about it. I'm just saying that age, I think we have to be tolerant to the LGBTQ community. A lot of people think I'm an LGBTQ warrior. I just believe that, you know, people should be treated equally. Yeah. But I still, like, for me, I just think it, like, maybe 8 years old, 7, 8 years old would be in a better age. But the PR on this is disastrous. Like, you know, just hire me for God's sakes. I'd make things a lot better for the Muslim community if they hired me.
The fact of the matter is,
I think they. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Jupiter.
The fact of the matter is that there's a lot of British people that would actually agree with the Muslims up to a certain age, just like Raja said. But what they've done is they've made it worse for themselves, because they just want to pick on homosexuals full stop. And the bottom line is this: what two consenting adults past the age of 18 do in the privacy of their own home, in their bedroom, is nobody else's business. Nobody's business. And even if you're against, even if you don't, because I particularly, I've got 8 children. As a parent, I wouldn't have wished any of them to grow up to be homosexual, because I'm traditional. But I would never reject them, discriminate against them, and I would tolerate it if they did turn out to be homosexual.
I think me and you are on the same page here. Like, I don't actually no offense, like a lot of people think I'm you know, pro homosexual and stuff like that. Or I'm not actually. I'm actually quite traditional in my values. I would prefer, like, if I had a kid, I don't want them to be homosexual. No offense, their life's going to be harder, and I would prefer my children to be straight, have kids and stuff like that. That doesn't mean I want to discriminate you. I mean, I've never ever been rude to someone who's gay or anything like that. Except for Paul, actually. Paul is gay, but I wasn't rude to him because he was gay. I just rude to him because he was a prick. Yeah, I'm in the same stance as Jupiter on that.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you guys. I'm just saying that. So when this thing came on the news, I thought they were teaching little kids, you know, the lesson plans and everything. And I'm not for teaching little kids at such a young age, you know, what the birds and bees, you know, about even just between men and women. But I can support, you know, let's say some kids are bullying another girl because she has 2 mommies or 2 daddies, and they're like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, okay, the teacher can say that, look, there are different families. Some families have 2 moms, some families have 2 dads. That doesn't mean we should pick on someone for that. Now that's okay. To me, that's okay.
Right. So
yeah.
that makes sense. Say, all right. So let me do a little change a little bit. Say if in a particular school there was a girl or a boy that had 2 mums or 2 dads, and in that school there was that particular case of a real person, then I wouldn't have no issue with the teacher kind of going, okay, there is people in the world that have 2 mums and 2 dads. You don't have to agree with it, but that's the case. If there was a real person in the school. Now, that doesn't mean I want every school to have that just rolled out.
There's not a lesson. That's what I thought too. I first thought that this is like a lesson plan, like with that Buffett guy. But no, this wasn't a lesson plan. This was not something that's going to be rolled out to all the schools. It's just that it's like a guidance to the teachers that in case some little kids ask or something, then you address it, and just, you know, it's not like a formal lesson plan or anything that they're teaching the kids at a certain day that, oh, you know, let's talk about LGBT. No, it's not like that.
But the thing is, this is what I don't understand. How would a normal 4-year-old know someone's got 2 mummies or 2 daddies? Because I don't think they notice those kind of things at the age of 4.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what actually is happening, because if you look at the liberal education system, what's occurred since the big jump in the 80s and 90s is This is not just a casual accident. This is just like civil rights for black people. Civil rights for black people occurred from the 60s and 70s, and most of the legislation was finished. Same with women in the early 70s with equal opportunity laws for women, right? And especially protection laws under no-fault divorce. That was the last big line to fall. What's happening here in the 90s and 80s is a political left-wing thing that wants to destroy what they consider cis male white hierarchy. It is an intersectional agenda, right? So they're not just trying to. So they're not just. I have a friend with young kids in Brighton, and they just don't have. They're just not trying to say there's two mummies and two daddies. They're trying to destroy the idea of gender. They want it to be something that's assigned to you. Gender assignment is a word that has only appeared in the lexicon in 5-8 years. Oh, what gender were you assigned at birth? This is not just for gay rights anymore. This is for destroying white traditional male pig. That they say that is their enemy, and that's what the SOAS and all the schools have produced for the last 20, 30 years. It's a wave of these people in education. They need to be purged from education, right?
Yeah, I agree.
They're not trying to just say there's boys, because gay people have existed throughout time in all cultures. A certain percentage of people are gay, right? That's very different from giving them equality of gay rights. You don't gay bash a guy on the street, from actually trying to use the gay issue to actually fulfill the Marxist issue. The Marxist issue is destruction of heterosexual power, right? They want to destroy.
Did you watch that program last night about gay animals? And they were like,
yeah, they're going to try everything. They're going to say that.
They did a program about gay animals, and then
yeah, but you see, it's not gay. They're using the gay movement just like they use the minority. So if you look at all the left, why is so many black people or brown people in the park prone to sit to the left? Because they were told in the old days that the Labour Party, the left, will look after minority rights. We will say, we will free you from slavery. We will give you equal rights. We will stop black people being strung up on a tree or packy bashing. That war was finished in the 70s and 80s, and legislatively after the purge of the lost parts of racist structures. There's no such structures left in the West. The left then said, now we're going to go to take the war to the next level. We're going to break down the ideas of these things, right? So we got that equality and that stuff in the 80s and 90s. And it's no surprise if we look at the research from the 90s onwards, it's now. So they're using the gay people. They're using the LGBT movement. It's the hard left, right? That's what it is, right? It's no longer about gender LGBTQ. That's why we're in good luck, guys, because Islam is very, very strong. And it's a traditional patriarchy, which has every kind of enemy structure the left wants. The Islam has it in it. So of course Islam's going to run into the left in education and everything now, right?
Yeah, they're going to eat themselves. Yeah, they're going to end up eating themselves.
Well, they have to, because you've got an increasing number of people who want white gay rights, right? So now they're going to
Ralph, I need to go for a bit. I'm going to put my thing on mute. I'll be back later on.
All right, Ralph, take care, man.
Yeah, I'll be back later on.
Yeah, I think what the right should do is just have like a rainbow pride parade in Birmingham or something.
Oh, but see what happened straight away when Sue says, what's her name, Lawrence Southern came. As soon as Lawrence Southern came in, and she did the in Luton, she did the Allah is gay stand and everything. They lost it, shut it all down, right? And
no, don't do stuff like, don't go as far as, Allah is gay, but just have like a regular rainbow pride parade and just see what the reaction would be.
but even that annoys me. I mean, I'm not homophobic. I'm not against people being in homosexual relationships. But I think the era of having gay pride, where men dress up in these gimp suits with all their bollocks hanging out, going down a high street,
that's
where little
disgusting.
kids are, it's wrong.
Yeah, no, that's disgusting. I'm talking about like
that is one thing that I think the homosexual community needs to start to understand. Actually makes people like myself. I have to admit, there's been a few times when I've become quite homophobic when I've watched those videos. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you don't need to dress as a dog on all fours and there's children walking about and stuff like that. That kind of stuff starts to
but you see the gay rights,
make you start looking at gay people in
I remember Peter Thatcher
left.
But Peter Thatcher in the 80s, Stonewall, fighting for sincere gay protection rights is one thing. They got everything they wanted for in law, that gay members of parliament, that everything was given. This new movement with 5-year-old boys doing like erotic dancing and gay stuff on the streets in front of a gay parade, that is the far left using the gay rights.
Disgusting, that is.
It is. I mean, look at that. But what is that? Is that gay rights? That's not gay rights anymore. That is an attempt at a war against the intellectual concept that traditional nuclear families should have any hegemony over non-gay people. It's a political action. It's no longer about gay rights. Same with black people. Black people are constantly reinforced with slavery, oppression. Nothing can be done about slavery. It's over, right? But they're constantly told that, and you have to reinforce that message to black people again and again. Slavery, oppression. Why? Because that means it keeps the white man as the enemy, right? The left need an oppressor. Palestine is required to keep the Jew hatred of Israel there, right? You need to keep perpetuating the victim narrative. It's feeds by a constant reinforcement, right? And you can see now, and that's why we think there's, like Brenda said, the left will eat itself. Islam now is going to have to fight multifaceted battles against the left, right? Because the LGBTQ movement is already coming round full circle and started becoming racist, which is what you'd expect. Once they have full power and rights, they're going to express their natural feelings. So already the LGBT movement has problems because lots of white guys are going to say, I don't want to fuck non-white guys. And the left are going, what do you mean? You can't be racist. And the LGBT will say, well, we weren't in the political camp with the left for racism. We were in it for gay rights, right? Now you're seeing women turning around going, these transgender women, they're just men. So you have hardcore trans-excluding radical feminists going, these transgender people, we can't look at them as women. So you can see the left has started fighting itself on all axes. And Islam is like a nuclear device in the left, right? Because Islam will only look after itself, right? It doesn't give a shit about any of the other movements, right?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to actually say in regards to all the different sort of factions and all the different things, I mean, the weird thing is with this social justice stuff, up until only recently, well, actually, a couple of years, I never really noticed it in my everyday life. I don't know about you guys, but SJW sort of thinking or SJW sort of hoopla, it was always like, some crazy shit that's going on the internet or on Twitter, but I never really came across SJWs. And admittedly, in the Trump protest, there was that. But last night, I was at a bar. And a South African friend of mine who he is from the new generation of white South Africans who he's the godfather to his son is a black African chap, and he is literally an African guy. And he went to the bar and he ordered some rum and coke and stuff. And the girl said, "Which one would you like, the dark rum or the white rum?" And he said, "Oh, I like them white." And this woman, she was American, African American. She took this as a racist thing. We almost got chucked out of a bar because this woman lost her collective shit over the fact that he said, "I like him white."
Because you're not allowed to, right? Your language. That's why free speech, right?
And then she started to like talk. "Oh, I'm not serving you. I'm not serving these drinks." I'm like, and then I came up sort of in the middle of this, and I was like, "What's going on?" It's like, I think I said something. I was just bantering. I was just joking, and then she suddenly flipped, and she's like, "Oh, did I flip? Did I flip? Oh, you racist, you!" And then he's like, "Look, the godfather of my son is black. Oh, your token white one black friend that you have is that what you're gonna give me? The whole I have a black friend, so I'm not racist line." I'm like, I said to her, "Excuse me, Matt, have you seen the group we're in? It's like we have guys from Mauritius, Nigeria, India." Like, we're a pretty mixed bunch. I'm Iranian.
But Banksy,
I don't think we're like a racist group here.
Banksy, you saw that on Parliament Square when you came into the enclosure with us. There were England flags draped over people. Did you see it as a full white? It was not full white at all, was it?
Not at all. That was actually a very... But the weird thing is when I started talking to those guys, because I started engaging them over the fence, this, to me, these people, the Trump, these protests, the Trump protests, it's so childishly pantomime. It's unbelievable that when I started talking to these people like grown adults, like, where is your priorities at? This country is in a giant shit show right now. We have a parliament that is
exactly.
It's hung. Yeah, it's toothless. There's a power vacuum, right?
Don't drag the youth down there with you. You do what you want to do. Yeah? You do what you want to do. But don't let other people, don't drag other people down there with you.
The major of two evils.
I was absolutely shocked that he...
Honestly, you will not be able to understand. Nor will your Haytham al-Haddad.
one who's just handling alcohol is okay. The one who's a student loan is okay. The one who says all sorts of bars, the one who sit with the people's innovation, smiling with them, going to gatherings with them, opening organizations with them, charities with them. Because if you was to speak the heart that you conceal, you lose all of it.
الله أقوى وأقدر ممن عدا وتكبر ممن بغى وتجبر الله أعلى وأكبر الله أقوى وأقدر ممن عدا وتكبر ممن بغى وتجبر وبات بالله يكفر وراح بالكفر يجهر مستخدما كل منكر وحاشدا كل عسكر وبات بالله.
قالوا له خالفت أقوال الشيوخ ولم يبالوا الخلف للفرقان خالفت أقوال الشيوخ فأنتم خالفتم من جاء بالقرآن خالفتم قول الرسول وإنما خالفت من جراه قول فلان يا حبذا ذاك الخلاف فإنه عين الوفاق لطاعة الرحمن خالفتم قول الرسول وإنما خالفت من جراه قول فلان يا حبذا ذاك الخلاف فإنه عين الوفاق لطاعة الرحمن أوما علمت بأن أعداء الرسول عليه عاب الخلف بالبهتان لشيوخهم
You do what you want to do, but don't let other people, don't drag others down there with you.
بأن أعداء الرسول عليه عاب الخلف بالبهتان لشيوخهم ولما عليه قد مضى أسلافهم في سنة.
I was absolutely shocked that he
Honestly, you will not be able to understand, nor will your Haytham al-Haddad, Haytham al-Haddad, Haytham al-Haddad. The one who's just handling alcohol is okay. The one who's a student loan is okay. The one who says all sorts of bars, the one who sit with the people's innovation, smiling with them, going to gatherings with them, opening organizations with them, charities with them. Because if you was to speak the heart that you conceal, you lose all of it. You're going to see home loot, you're going to see the government, you're going to fear losing risk when risk comes from Allah. You're going to fear losing your freedom, your following, and the Maghrib Institute, and all the rest of the organizations. You're going to fear losing all your fancy trips around the world.